So I'm Anthony Polcari, or Tony P, and I'm here in DC and grew up in Boston suburbs really.
Yeah.
And grew up outside of Boston. Only child for most of my life. My sister came into my life a little later. My mother ended up adopting my cousin later on in life. So
Wow.
I ended up becoming I became a younger brother, very much probably kind of towards like 16, 17 years old. So kind of later in my life. And I'm a much better person because of it, first of all.
Wow.
Under her influence. And my parents are divorced. I've been divorced for about 22 years now. And, the great thing is that they really were the model for how to do it right. And they really put me at the front and center. And I think that's why I was able to, be able to go through my childhood with not many bumps. Because of the fact that I had two parents that put their differences aside and made sure that they were taking care of me. That's that's kind of my upbringing a little bit. And the thing about me, which kind of ties to my content, is that I grew up around older people mostly. So where I would say the old soul nature of my content comes from, some of the wholesomeness that you may see comes from the fact that I was raised predominantly, around in adult circles. I was, spent a lot of time around my mother's friends, for example. My dad's friends are like uncles and aunts to me, right? And I really kind of took not advice, but saw what they did and took a lot from them. My great aunt was my grandmother in standing. It's kind of a weird dynamic. My mom's mother
Families
died.
come in all shapes.
Yeah, my mom's mother died before I was born. I didn't know her. And so her sister came on and took the mantle of taking care of me. And we had a 12-year relationship that was basically like a second parent. Second mother.
Yeah.
And she just did everything and, made my life so great. And we had so many memories from going to Walmart together and shopping, to go to the movies, going to Subway and different restaurants. I mean, we just would do, and movies, everything we did together. And she passed in 2012, which was, a tough one, and still something I still grieve about today. But the thing about it is that, I try to channel her spirit. And I think that's where my mannerisms come from, and my more desire to do older soul type of content and be a little bit more more wholesome comes from that I grew up around mostly adults my entire life. And then, started making friends as I got into school and later on. And also I just hang around with some of the greatest people on earth, and people that really are just, I think, some of the most wholesome people I know.
Yeah.
So it kind of reflects not only in my family upbringing, but it also reflects upon the people that I grew up with, the friends that I hung around with, and like they truly reflected those values that I saw in the adults in my life. So I think that's a big part as well.
Talking about this story with folks in the newsroom, they were like, positive masculinity, what is that?
Wow.
Then they looked at your page and they kind of understood based on your content.
Yeah.
How did that come to be?
So I'm glad that actually came up that way, because it's interesting. That word has kind of been coming up a little bit as the years have gone on. What I call positive masculinity is basically, being, if I could phrase it like being able to, again, do things like, be a leader, for example, and, you can lift weights and you can, do the things that are considered, typical masculine. At the same time, also, do things like I like to decorate my house, as you can see. I love to cook. I love to, go to different art museums and really explore my creative side. I'm very much of an empath, so I love to, I do cry a decent amount when I, go through sadness or whatever, or things of that nature. And I like to, embrace emotional intelligence and being sensitive to issues and being empathetic. Like, those type of things are not mutually exclusive, with masculinity. And I think we're having a conversation about that, in the country and around the world, about what this means, about especially, with young men, in terms of the suicide rates for men across the world and things of that nature, and, high divorce rates. And there's a reason for that. I think there's a reason being that, that again, a lot of men for years, we're not, again, we weren't allowed to express our emotions. We weren't allowed to, grieve over things. I mean, I had parents that embraced that with me, which was great. But at the same time, so many young men and men today don't have that opportunity. And again, I mean, I'm not saying, I'm not saying you have to live by my version of masculinity. That's the biggest thing. You can have flexibility. The biggest thing about it is that having positive masculinity is also not dictating what people should be. Because for years, men were dictated to. We can't cry. We have to suck it up. You can't, express emotion, or if you do things that are creative, that's against it. If you're a sports person but you're doing creative stuff, that doesn't make sense. Well, yeah, it does. It's part of it's part of a blend of things, and just having, being able to, express, those sensitivity to people and emotional intelligence and compassion, empathy, like those type of things where, not only are you, able to lead in times and, be able to lead people, but at the same time, know when it's your time to fall back and be in the background and say, you know what, I need to be supportive right now, whether it be of, in the workplace, if someone I'm helping out, being more collaborative, as well as, in a relationship, for example, with my spouse, my significant other, knowing when to support that person, as well as when, okay, it's my time to lead, but it's also my time now to sit back and, and be behind the scenes. So I think it's kind of a mix of those things. I call it vibrant masculinity. I think because, again, like if you look at it like positive, negative, it can be kind of judging. I think vibrant masculinity is a great way to go about it. That's the word I'm going to use. So I call it vibrant masculinity because it's like you get to show creativity, emotional intelligence, compassion. Those are vibrant traits. And I think that's the thing that I want to bring to my content. I try to bring some vibrance. And again, I can, I still, you can still go work out and, you can, like, I love rock and roll, like the things that are more like, I hate to be prototypically masculine, but the things that are like that, I still embrace those things, but I also have a creative side.
Yeah.
I like to express, and I love, for example, I love watching Nancy Meyers movies. It's like, like Father of the Bride, one of my favorite movies. Like, or like, I listen to things like The Carpenters, or, things that would not be in yesteryear be considered prototypically masculine. But I embrace it all. I also love romantic music, like ballads and stuff. Like I just, other type of music, and Neil Diamond as well. It's like all that ties together. And I think just, to men out there, it's okay to be both. You can have a synergy. And I think when you bring forth the masculine, the feminine energies, I don't think they're separate. I think they actually work in tandem. And that's what I mean by vibrant masculinity, is that when you bring in the mix of the masculine traits and the feminine traits, there's a synergy there, there's a big synergy, you're living a full life. That's what I like to say. So if you find that balance, you're living a fantastic life. So I mean, I haven't gotten there yet, I'm working on it. But again, I don't want to dictate to people, that's not my goal.
Yeah.
If people think it makes sense, embrace it. If not, you don't agree with me, totally fine. I have no issue with that at all. But it's more of a philosophy, I guess, that I have.
And that stereotypical male philosophy, or the life that you're kind of saying you're trying to show an alternative to, is inherently self-conscious. There is this feeling that men have to, as you're describing it, behave a certain way because of that's what the world has told them they need to do.
Yes.
And then you decided not only are you going to not live by those rules, you're going to share your perspective with the world.
Yes.
So you're knocking down the whole self-consciousness aspect of it in many ways. What made you decide, I'm going to share a little bit of this? Is it a generational thing? Is it because you're 24 and that's what 24-year-olds do, is post things online? Like, how did that come to be?
No, I actually I wasn't the biggest fan of posting a lot for the longest amount of time. I was actually I never really knew what influencing was. I really didn't think it was that great of a thing. I just kind of looked at it as as just another thing that I would never do. But I think the reason why I do this is because I think a lot of, there isn't a mark, not a mark, but there isn't a lot of people out there, at least at our age, that are talking. There are a lot of people they're older, they're medical professionals, which is fine. That's great. But at the same time, you need people, I think, that are going through it and are still unfinished products. Like, I'm very unfinished. And the biggest thing about my content is that I like to post from the perspective of someone who is unfinished. I haven't reached any mountaintop. I haven't done really much anything in terms of being right? This masculinity journey, my professional journey, it's an incredible work in progress. Like, I am still stumbling and making mistakes. And I think that's why I wanted to do this, because I think showing people that they're, on social media, that there is content out there where you're just kind of stumbling upon it. You're just trying to get better, trying to be, a better version of yourself, be more reflective. And I think that, I've always my personality has been to kind of, try to share with people. Like, I always love sharing with people in my life and family, friends. And, I've seen a lot of the stuff go on in the world with young men and, issues with, with suicide, for example, and, depression. I went through my own journey of depression about 10 years ago, and I, went through a long ordeal that was very, very tough. And I just seen it throughout, my life. I just, maybe I can be a little bit of help, to provide just my little perspective.
Yeah.
And just give people, maybe some positive feelings, some joy, and maybe a little bit of insight on how to kind of go through this life as we grow into our age, because it's a very tough age now, especially nowadays where things are more expensive, and we're trying to kind of figure out our life, and you could come out of college or trade school, whatever it may be, trying to find your first job, trying to get your apartment, trying to meet somebody. Everything, it's a great time in our life, but at the same time, it's a lot thrown at us. And I think that sometimes social media makes us feel like, oh, so many people have it all put together and figured out. And we really don't. So that's why I wanted to kind of just do this and kind of show someone who's a work in progress, and always will be a work in progress for at least a while. That's at least, I can't say for how long, but for a decent amount of time. So
you're not highly curated. You're not
No.
overly filtered.
Absolutely.
You're not very, very refined.
Nope. Nope.
And you don't mind me saying that.
I don't mind it at all. That's what you see here is what you get.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. What you see here is what you get.
And that's a question people have had, because
I know.
you look through some of the comments and people have said, should we be, is this a joke?
Yes,
is this
yes,
satire?
yes,
is
yes,
this,
yes.
what do you think when you see questions like that?
It makes the point real that we actually do need to talk about these issues. Because if that's, again, if it seems to me that's saying, oh, men can't act like that. Like, my page only has to be, me lifting weights all the time.
You have to be tagging somebody because they paid you to tag them, or something like
and
that.
it's like, right, and again, that's why I think that, and again, I'm not knocking people that do, workouts.
Right.
There's a lot of good people who talk about nutrition. That's huge.
Great,
And that's a
yeah.
big thing for men, actually physically and also mentally too.
Yeah.
So they're a huge part of it. But I think at the same time, like, not having, doing a lifestyle type content, if that, it's a satire, like, is that celebrating the mundane, not mundaneness, but like the little things in life, celebrating the day-to-day things of this world. If that's kind of cringe to some people, and then maybe we have to have a conversation about what that masculinity thing means, and maybe it's a good thing we're having these conversations. Because again, if that's known as satire, then what would you expect me to post? And that's the thing. I think it's more of it's proof that we have to have these conversations about, kind of the more of, what does masculinity mean? What does it mean just to be 24 years old? Like, across the spectrum, what does it mean? And, what are some things we should be doing? And, what can we do as opposed to what's expected of us?
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing as well,
I also, you have to laugh, but then also kind of think about some of those questions, or some of those comments where people talk about how they're worried the girlfriends are going to leave them for you, or their mothers. I saw one comment early on that was somebody saying, I can't decide if I want to hit, it was a guy commenting, I can't decide if I want to hit this guy or have him date my sister. And I was like,
I didn't read that one. So that's oh my goodness.
But I think that as time has gone on, people have understood, people have not only gotten in on it, they realize, I think, that you are out here being yourself, and that's drawn more and more fans. You've gotten shout outs on Reddit. I saw somebody say if they had to pick DC famous people to have dinner with, dead or alive, you'd be on the list.
Really?
I've seen that kind of conversation about your content. And you have the Pea Hive. Let's talk about how just this is blown up, not just with those specific fans, but just in general. How did this go from something that you were sharing because you felt like the world needed it to something the world really got on board with?
My God, so I remember July 18th, around that time, when the first post kind of popped off. And I just couldn't believe it. How this, I started getting all these comments. I'm like, whoa, like, what, all this following, right? And the biggest thing to know is this is a shock to me. I did not think this would ever blow up. Like, I looked at this as, hey, if I get a few thousand people, maybe, that can see a sense, can maybe get some insights, and I can provide something, fine. But the fact that this has grown is the biggest shock to me, and I'm just so grateful for it. I'm incredibly humbled by this type of growth, and I just, I don't want to. I hope I can continue to earn people's support. I view this very much as trying to earn people's trust. People's time is very valuable. They want to put time towards my content. It means the world to me, and I just want them to know that I want to keep trying to earn their trust in this. And this is, the kind of a thing that I love doing, and I want to keep doing it. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, the Pea Hive just came out of nowhere. The person,
great name. Great
I know. And the person that came up with it, I don't know who they are yet. They're going to reveal themselves at some point. They told me that, and I'm like kind of like on the edge of my seat here. I want to know, because I want to thank them just for doing this. And again, it's a lot of work to put up an account, first of all, and doing this on behalf of someone that you may not know as well. Like it's just crazy. I mean, I'm just so honored by that. And yeah, I just kind of started taking off. And I just started seeing these memes, and I'm like, what the heck is this? And it just started coming up, and I was shocked by it all. I really was. There's a total. Again, like I never expected this. I was always, raised to be someone that, it's good to be in the background. It's good to kind of be the, someone just doing the work and not getting the attention. I never was someone that really, even though I am more extroverted and I naturally do these type of things, I don't really love to be a showboat. I just don't. I'm more someone that likes to be in the background, someone that likes to do more things that go unnoticed. And, but this has been kind of a shift to kind of like, as you can tell, it's kind of uncomfortable. It's been kind of a shift for me, but all I can say is that I'm just so honored by it. That's what I tell people. I'm just honored that you actually like this. Like really, like tell me I'm not dreaming here. Like you actually, like you're not kidding. Like you actually like this stuff. And I kind of have to like convince myself, like really, people do like this. So that's just kind of where I'm at. And I'm just so honored that people like this and have this, this kind of following. And I hope that people take this as a way to say, hey, you know what? As a guy, it's okay. I can be this way. I can embrace all these things. And that's my hope, is that it channels into that, and that people can, you don't have to live like me all the time. I'm not saying you have to. Listen, I got a lot of stuff that's not figured out. Okay, I am far from a completed work or even close to it. But I think that that's where, if you can take a little bit of nuggets from me, that's all I can hope for.
When's your birthday?
So it's actually tomorrow, September 8th.
No, it's not.
It is.
Wait, am I having the last interview with 24-year-old bachelor?
I just didn't realize that, yes.
What?
Yes, you are. Yes.
Well, first off, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Is 25 going to change anything for you?
I heard it's the quarter life crisis, which I don't believe. I just think, for me, I'm going to reflect a lot on this birthday about the things that have happened in the past for me, and then also look at the things I want to tackle. And I think I'll dive in more to the masculinity content as I go into 25 and further. So I think I haven't gone into it as explicit as I wanted to. I want to dive into that stuff more, talk about things like dating life and masculinity, all those things combined. Because I think those things are very, very important to people our age. I think that's a big thing that I really want to channel more of as I go into the new year, and also look at things like maybe potentially, I'm being a consultant by day. I think trying to do some more kind of like helpful content of how I got into consulting. Yeah. What are some things that I do to get better at my job, and kind of do some of that stuff, more functional type content as well down the line. So I think it's one thing I'm working on, and just trying to go forward in that way. Kind of just do some different flavors of content, just to give people some more things to look at, and have people get some more value. For me, if I'm not providing functional value at some level, whether it be recommendations or advice on things, then I'm not doing my job. And so I think it's, again, if it becomes a Tony P show, all I'm doing is just showing off all day, I'll get rid of this content. I won't do it. Are you okay with the fact that some may see your advice a little differently? They may say you should be cooking your salmon differently, or pairing the tie and shirt differently. Yes. Oh, I love that. That's the whole point of it. I mean, we're meant. My page is meant to be a collaborative space. I love getting advice from people that follow me, or even people that don't like my content. You give me advice, you give me constructive feedback. I love that. No, I'm not threatened by it at all. I think it's fantastic. I think it makes my content better. And it gives us a collaborative space where we can all, again, I'm not someone up on the perch here. We're all just I'm just a guy. Like, we're all just, you're a guy who drinks Gatorade with your salmon. Right. I do these kind of what I call unique things, and again, I mean, many people, have their different advice, and again, some people can probably cook it better than I can, and I want to take that advice. I appreciate that. So I mean, I love getting advice. I don't take it poorly at all. Especially because the comments tend to be very positive. They say, do. Tony, I would suggest this. Yes. Keep it coming. And I think that's exactly, that's how I think the world should be. Like, and I don't think anybody should be, should be arrogant enough to say, hey, I'm not going to take advice. I'm bigger than that. No, like I am, again, a work in progress. So anybody that can give feedback, especially people that, that have done it differently, I am all for it. I think it's great. I think it's awesome. I appreciate it. I thank them for it.
Sometimes people aren't just paying attention to the advice, they're paying attention to all the little details, like when you don't identify as a bachelor, or
Yes.
you make food for two. Who are you cooking for?
A lot of times it was for some of these interviews that I've done. Sometimes it's dates. Having I love to have dinner dates. I think it's I think it's a cool way to do it. I think it's a very it shows off the creative side. You get to have a conversation. You're not in a loud restaurant. So yeah, there's some dates, but I have no one in my life right now.
Still bachelor.
Still bachelor. No, I'm dating. I dated a lot when I first came down here for the first 8 months. Took a few months off. I'm off the apps right now, and then kind of rolled into the last couple months or so, kind of getting back into dating slowly. And life's just so busy. It's kind of tough to get out there and balance all of that. So I'm working on it, but I'm looking to find that special someone. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, I haven't had a long-term relationship in a very long time. And I'm looking for that. I'd like to settle down in the next few years. I'm going to be honest. I'd like to meet someone and, have that life. So, I hope that might happen in DC. If it happens somewhere else, fine. But I'm also working, as my priest always tells me, working on becoming not looking for the right person, but becoming the right man. So that's what I'm working on. So, and just trying to be on that journey and trying to, improve myself every day. And, hopefully that person's out there. I hope so. And that's the goal. That's the
DC's dating scene is famously tough. I've got to ask for the ladies, are your DMs open?
Yes, they are. Yes, absolutely. DMs are open. And again, I try to get back to as many people as possible. Try to look every day. If I don't respond within a day or so, don't worry. I'm gonna get to you. I promise. But yeah, DMs are open. So please, I'd love to go out with you. I'd love to meet you, and get to again. I love getting to just know people. Just get to know new people and kind of meet some folks here in the city and then see where it goes.